Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started, just in the interest of time. If anyone has any technical issues, please feel free to send a message, and we will try to help you one-on-one. So before we start, I just want to let you all know that we are recording this session. And I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who's here tonight. We are so thrilled by the number of people that have registered for this event, and also extremely excited to know how many of you are ready to help create change in Philly and elsewhere. So my name is Kim Paymaster. I've been a member of the Plastics Reduction Task Force of Weaver's Way for a number of years now. And then I recently connected with the Philadelphia Neighborhood Network, and I'm a member of Circular Philly. Elaine, if you could go to the next slide. So I've always been interested in reducing waste, but for a long time, I thought recycling was the answer, like I'm sure many of you. A few years ago, I realized that it was only one part of the solution, and I started looking for other ways to reduce my packaging and overall carbon footprint. The more I looked into this, the more I learned not only about my own impact, but how connected these issues are to fossil fuels, climate change, and climate justice for marginalized communities. As a result, I started a graduate program recently in environmental sustainability, and I'm looking forward to being more involved in this space and hopefully getting to know more of you. So in Philly, we all know too well how much trash, the missed garbage and recycling pickups, incineration, and pollution in marginalized communities, and poorly managed waste systems are impacting our streets, neighborhoods, and city. Furthermore, the links between these growing problems, our health and climate change, are becoming more and more apparent. The city has a goal of becoming 90% zero waste and litter-free by 2035. As individuals, so many of us are wondering how we're going to get there and how each of us can be part of that solution. This is why the Plastics Reduction Task Force of Weaver's Way and the Environmental Action Committee of Philadelphia Neighborhood Networks created this 7-month virtual series. Our goal is to educate and inspire you to be part of the shift towards reduced waste, to replace our throwaway culture, and help slow climate change. We look forward to learning with you and from you over the next few months. Towards that end, I would like to invite you to introduce yourselves and any upcoming relevant events you may be part of in the chat. Next slide, please. So for tonight's event, we're going to tell you more about our effort and what we hope to focus on over the next few months. We thought it was fitting to kick off our first session with an opportunity for everyone to watch The Story of Plastic, an incredible documentary that has educated and inspired so many. In case you didn't get a chance to watch the film before today, please note that the link will be active and available until the end of the month. Watching this movie a few years ago, I realized how much more we need to do, that the current recycling system is broken and is not the answer. I was overwhelmed by the amount of plastic constantly being pumped into our communities and how this is all happening without us paying attention because of the culture of consumption we have all become accustomed to. In today's session, we're going to watch another film, A World Without Waste. This one's focused on the circular economy. While it's important to understand the problems, it's critical that we see there are solutions and work towards those. Following the film, we'll have an engaging discussion and Q&A with our panelists, Maurice, Sampson, and Elisa Chargarotsky. Before we dive into tonight's film, we want to take a minute to tell you about the virtual series. During each of the sessions we have put together, we will be featuring representatives from nonprofits, government programs, and businesses that are working to reduce waste and increase reuse and recycling in the greater Philly region. Today, we are focusing on 2 films that will push us to rethink waste. Do we fully understand the plastic and waste industry, and what can we do about it? Future sessions will be held on the third Thursday of each month from 6:30 to 8 p.m. and will be speaker panels focused on topics such as food waste, the impacts of incineration, reuse models in the restaurant and grocery sectors, litter and dumping, and the specific crisis we're facing in Philadelphia's systems. Can you go to the next slide, Elaine? You'll see a list of those sessions here. We are currently finalizing speakers for these sessions, and as a result, the order of these topics may slightly shift. If you are registered, we will keep you up to date. We hope you can join us for each of these discussions. You are welcome to register through the same Eventbrite link and can even register for all the sessions at once. So now on to tonight's movie. During the film, please feel free to add your questions to the chat. We will collect these and have our panelists answer them afterwards. At this point, we're going to turn off the Zoom recording while the film plays. I'm hoping everyone learned something new from that. I learned a whole lot and need to keep learning. The idea of clothing that grows with your child was incredible to me. I've never heard of that, so that was great. And I'm hopeful that we will figure out how to do more in terms of e-waste and medical waste. So now we're going to move into the Q&A. And if you have questions, I invite you to put them in the chat. Before we start, I'd like to introduce our two panelists. Maurice Sampson of Philadelphia Neighborhood Networks and Elisa Chargarotsky from the Plastics Reduction Task Force of Weaver's Way. Maurice was one of the first recycling coordinators for Newark and Philadelphia in the early 80s. Something that I just learned about Maurice is that he helped launch the first recycling program in Philly in 1987. He then worked to bring curbside recycling to the whole city in 2007. As a consultant, Maurice has provided support to local and state agencies, businesses, and organizations to move them closer to zero waste goals. In 2016, Maurice became the Eastern Pennsylvania Director for Clean Water Action. In this position, he played a major role in something many of you are probably familiar with, the Philly plastic bag ban. Elisa Chargarotsky's professional career and personal experience led her to found her own business, Ecosystems, a Philadelphia member-based network of businesses, organizations, and individuals focused on eliminating single-use plastic and waste. As a consultant, Elisa has worked with the Philadelphia Water Department, Weaver's Way Co-op, and Live Nation. She has been a panelist for numerous events focused on circularity and waste reduction. One of her more recent accomplishments was in partnership with Circular Philly to get the Philadelphia Department of Health to make it easier for restaurants and food retailers to allow circular models. In case you haven't seen this in action, I would welcome you to check out the reusable containers provided by Tiffin, a local restaurant. So to begin, I would like to ask Maurice to talk a bit more about the Philadelphia Neighborhood Network, the organization's goals, and what connects them to the goals of this virtual series. Maurice?
Thank you, Kim. Yes, I've been part of Philadelphia Neighborhood Networks really almost since it began. Let's just say it was a long time ago. Try to think of that timing is wrong. And I have been the environmental person there for many years. And in 2016, we had an explosion of interest in the community. We had what we were hoping would be a meeting of 10 or 20 people to plan for the next year, and 200 people showed up. And out of that group, we had a big interest in environment. And we went from my simply recommending what we should support to responding to that group in terms of what they would like to do about environment. Past a couple of years, in this past 2 years, we organized the Environment Committee, and several people from there came, and we've actually been spending over the last 2 years trying to determine what kind of things that we would do that would engage people. So many environmental groups will take your money and represent you and fight the issues. Very few actually engage you in activity, and that was a demand that we got from the people in the Northwest. We want to engage, we want to get our hands dirty in helping to make it happen. I have to say that this committee is really the net result of that. We looked at 4 different issues in the beginning. Waste became that was the most compelling. And then at some point along the way, all of us sitting in neighborhood networks realized we were all members of Weaver's Way, and Weaver's Way had the task force. So quite frankly, I took half a step back, and Hillary Zankel and Hillary Baum, who are both here today, sort of took over. And I've actually, after being involved in this game for 50 years, I've been doing a lot of listening and quite frankly, a lot of learning. This particular series is extremely exciting to me. I have been involved in waste. Waste is my favorite subject. I've been doing it for over 30 years. I love talking trash. And there is more going on in this city right now on the waste subject. More people, more activities, both in the private sector and its not-for-profit sector, than I have seen really since 2007, when we did the campaign that got us curbside recycling citywide. And this series is going to feature a whole lot of people that are from Philly, talking about waste and talking about business and things that they're doing. I saw a question in the chat asking, are there things going on here? The answer to that question is resoundingly yes, yes, yes. And if you stick with us, you're going to meet some of those people and see what those opportunities are. So thank you very much for being here, and I look forward to the discussion to follow.
We're so glad you enjoy talking trash. We all do too, so we're looking forward to the series. Elisa, can you please tell the audience a little bit more about the Plastics Reduction Task Force, your work with Weaver's Way, and how that work connects to the goals of the virtual series?
Sure, thanks. And thank you to everybody who was able to join us this evening. And for those of you who may have not gotten a chance to watch The Story of Plastic, that film, I don't know who here has seen it. Maybe we can do like a little show of hands of who here has seen that movie. Yeah, I was reading earlier today that it screened more than 2,000 times in 30 different nations, or 30 different languages, 2,000 screenings across the world. So this is like so incredible. And we asked you to watch that so that people who weren't familiar with this topic, I assume that most of you all are and are inspired and impassioned by this. And this is why we really wanted to bring this group together, because this group is not just about learning in regards to Philadelphia and who's here in Philadelphia doing this work on the ground, but also how you yourselves can get involved, because this is, in order for anything to become really viable, the people really have to support it. And all of you, I know a lot of you are on the Environment Committee, have made these kinds of commitments throughout your whole life. So let's continue doing that. As far as who I am, my name is Elisa. I work with Weaver's Way in a variety of different capacities. One, as the chair of PRTF. Many of you here are members of PRTF, and thank you. You are really the ones that made this happen, and this whole entire speaker series in conjunction with PNN. And also, we are a subcommittee of the Environment Committee of Weaver's Way. I also work in a different capacity as a service provider to the co-op in developing their reusables program. So that is another way that we do circular economy here in Philadelphia, with the circulation of what would have been a waste product otherwise. And so far we've circulated almost 2,500 containers in the co-op. And I'm really proud of all the members and people who are supporting that. So thank you. And I hope I answered your question.
No, that's great. And thank you for inviting others to participate in both PRTF and PNN, and we'll provide some more information about that shortly. So I want to jump to some of the questions that we're getting from the audience. Maurice, you alluded to this one, and I wanted to see if we could provide the audience with a few tidbits before we move to the next sessions. So one of the questions was, all of the best initiatives seem to be happening in the EU and Asia. Is there much of anything positive happening in the US? So Elisa or Maurice, I don't know if you want to jump into that.
You want to start, Elisa?
Sure, yeah. There's amazing things happening here in the United States. For those of you who don't know, there's an organization out in California called Upstream, and they have a national reuse network, and there are more than 300 members of that group. That's 300 different groups in the United States doing reuse. So that's promising. And right here in Philadelphia, right on this call, we have Danielle, who is here. She runs Bottle Underground, and Remark, she's here joining us. I don't know if everybody is familiar with them. They're incredible. We have Rocky, who works for Rabbit Recycling. They are amazing too. They will increase the capacity of recycling that we can currently get curbside. So they're really great, and create viable recycling markets so things don't go into the trash, and many others. So I think that that's really the cause of this, is to get everybody to come to these sessions and learn more about all of the amazing people and what they're doing here.
And it's part of the process is working that eventually led to the sessions you're looking now. At one point, we started identifying what we were describing as zero waste practitioners. That is, people of all walks that were engaged in one way or another in developing various approaches to waste. And I was stunned at the number of organizations and businesses that have evolved. And quite frankly, where we found most of them, and what I recommend to everybody, is you want to read Grid Magazine, because Grid Magazine really does focus on what is happening in the city now by local entrepreneurs. I mean, I just go down this list, and we have such things as Rabbit Recycling, which is quite frankly an alternative private recycling company that focuses on trying to recycle everything. We have Bennett Compost. You don't need to wait for the city to develop a composting program. If you want to do it, very simple program. And Bennett Compost is only one company. There's also Circle Compost that does similar things. And I'm discovering there are similar companies in other counties that are modeled the same way. There is, I'm just looking at my list here. There are dozens of them, and perhaps I can put this together in a list for people to see. And there are articles about all of these companies. Grid Magazine lets you go back into the archive so you can see, what's going on. There are also things that are evolving and in development. I've been working with the Mural Arts Academy that really works very dynamically with the underserved community on issues of waste. And I've been involved in something they refer to as an implosion, which I best describe as a design charrette run by artists, focusing on issues and problems. And without going into great detail, we started focusing on the dumping that's going on. The fact that a big thing that's in there is construction and demolition waste that gets dumped all over the city, and looking specifically at gypsum, which is a product that can be recycled. And after a number of conversations, we came to realize dumping is happening by a lot of small folks that are getting paid to take stuff and get rid of it. They take it and they dump it. They basically live in this community. It's actually an income for them. $10 million a year to clean up. What if you take that $10 million and you put it in a fund and you actually pay people to bring that waste to one of the 12 sort centers that's in the city? Turn the scofflaws into entrepreneurs. So when they go to pick it up and get paid, they're taking it to somebody that's not dumping it on the ground. That was just one idea that came out of a session. And these kind of sessions and discussions, they're happening all over the city right now. And really, we need to stop talking and complaining about what's going on and figure out how to plug in. There's a lot of education and intelligence and creativity amongst all of us. And it's about putting it together and focusing on what's happening here. The film you saw about all those things going on in Singapore, I have a strong suspicion there is an underground movement of those activities happening literally everywhere. The reaction is happening from the bottom up. You're going to find out more about it by looking and talking to people locally than you are going to watch the evening news. That's not where you're going to find out about what's going on.
Thank you both so much. That's super helpful. And I see that people are sharing information in the chat, and welcome people that are associated with organizations to put their information there. So this is a unique question based on the film. So there was a lot about insects and the soldier flies and other small creatures. So someone in the audience asked, they're a vegan, and that's a little bit hard for them to stomach. So they're wondering, are there other ways to extract the same materials from food waste without growing insects and killing them? I'm not sure if either one of you has insight into this or would want to kind of talk more about it.
Well, I first encountered soldier flies in my compost heap when, after it had been completely occupied by red wranglers, worms. I then saw what I thought was a radiated maggot. It really scared me to death. And first I was going to pour hot water, and I said, wait a minute, Maurice, what is this you're talking about? A soldier fly can't fly very well. It looks like a wasp without a stinger that can't really move. It has a very short lifespan. But in the larvae stage, it's voracious in terms of what it will consume. And it does it in a very quick fashion. And they're used in the South. They're using it for manures, to digest manures, and it creates a whole bunch of products. I guess it's a form of livestock. I'm not quite sure. I'm trying to deal with this vegan question, and all I can tell you is there are various forms of composting, and that's one of them. Apparently, you want to be involved in probably the aerobic digestion that doesn't deal with insects, but insects are offer a lot of incredible opportunities for replacing things that we are mining right now, because they are basically protein, and they have very short lifespans. And as that one demonstrated just with the soldier flies, there's a lot of things you can produce that would replace chemicals and plastics and so forth. So I'm not answering your question. I'm sorry. I'm not going to get there.
But actually, I guess I would invite whoever asked that question to make sure to join our future sessions. We're actually having 2 different sessions around food waste, and I think we'll have some great panelists who are specifically versed in this that can potentially answer these questions. But it's a good question to think about. I'm a vegetarian, so I have similar questions around this.
I also, sorry, Kim, I see that Rachel Davis has said, Lynn, good point, because it was Lynn Robinson who asked the question, made the comment. It says, Lynn, good point. I'm vegan and can myself support the soldier fly business. Insects do not have nervous systems, and therefore there is no pain receptors, if that helps at all. Something interesting to think about.
Thank you. So we're going to move in a slightly different direction from the soldier flies. Someone was really interested in kind of the brewery industry. So they mentioned the Zero Emissions Research Initiative, ZERI, which has done many circular projects from brewery waste. And we clearly have a number of breweries in the Philly area. Someone else mentioned that we have more spent grain here than we can compost. So I don't know if you all have heard about great initiatives around breweries and composting that grain waste, anything that you might want to share?
Not offhand.
Might be another question for a future session.
Yeah. In fact, that's a good one for us to look into. Come back and we'll answer it at a later point. We'll make a point here.
Perfect. So I want to move kind of to a more active question in terms of, we saw a lot about kind of the issues and problems in the story of plastic, and then we saw some great advances in this film we watched today. And I'd like to ask each of you, in Philadelphia and wherever viewers are coming in from, what is the role of consumers, in fostering change, and what do you kind of think of people can take steps in? And so maybe I'll throw that. Elisa, do you want to start and then move to Maurice?
Sorry, my internet is doing something weird and it cut out.
Oh, no problem. Just asking about the role consumers can play in fostering change, how you would kind of get people on this track.
Definitely. Well, and I might be wrong, but I bet that most of you here already do a great deal in your personal lives. And, I'm sure that a lot of you witness in your everyday lives other people who might not be as mindful of it. And I just welcome you to invite people into these discussions. But in your own personal lives, I just think that it's huge to make assessments of our own garbage. That's something that I like to do. If you're, have a family, grandchildren, it's a fun thing to do, or children, where you take some time to review what's in your own garbage, pulling things out, and looking at everything, and then just making decisions or some kind of a strategy for the year. Like we do this every year, where we create a strategy around, like we have a certain type of waste that we've had in our garbage and we want to get rid of it. So we'll try to create a plan around that. Like we were at one point buying toilet paper in bulk, and it was coming like with some excessive like plastic packaging that I really wasn't into. So we switched to Who Gives a Crap, and they use like a recycled paper and it comes to your house. And we really like that option. So it's just about kind of getting into the minutia of your own lives. And I'm sure a lot of you are already doing that. And also just not being, this isn't about being self-righteous. This isn't about a self-righteous journey. This is something that we're kind of all tied to, right? Like all of us, and for everyday people who don't have access to food co-ops are completely chained to a model where everything that they buy has a byproduct attached to it. And so this problem is really huge. And I think that what we can do here in Philadelphia is we can design a way out of that and show that it's possible. And that's what I'm really hoping that this group here will do. And over time, as we continue to spend more time together, that we can each individually share our own knowledge. So I think that that's my part on that.
I saw that Lynette put in there, vote with your dollar, and I want to speak to that. We all are consumers. We all vote, and we have the opportunity to influence who elected, but we also vote when we have our dollars. We are consumers as well as citizens. And I encourage you to look at your store a little bit differently. Everything in that store that you don't eat, drink, rub on something or put in something is trash. There are 40,000 items in the store, and that store will turn over 16.5 times a year. Now, if you can visualize that when you walk in, you will see the trash before you see the products. We don't have a tendency, and it's the way that our society is designed. We don't see the packaging when we're buying our products. And the truth of the matter is the profit margins in supermarkets are very thin. Products must move at a certain speed or they lose their shelf space. And the way that they compete is how they package their products. So the color and the shape and the size and the lettering, all of this plays. If you watch, you will watch as things change. Can we remember when all of detergents were in boxes? Do you remember a time when they did not sell water? And now there are whole rows where they sell water? You have to understand that that's only there because we buy it. We make that choice. And it's very insidious, and it happens without you knowing it. Right now, there is a switch going on where we are going from boxes to bottles to pouches. And when you're in the store now, I want you to look at that, look in your own shelf and look at what's in a pouch that used to be in a box. And let me tell you, those pouches are totally non-recyclable, completely non-recyclable. My favorite one right now, and what they do in the store when they make the change, is you will see the same product from two manufacturers that's in a different package. They're testing right then and there to see if you will buy that product in a different package. If you do, pretty soon you'll see every manufacturer using that package. Right now, my favorite one I'm looking at is baby food. Right now, in the store, there is I saw a Beechwood baby food. It was pumpkin and carrots. And right next to it in a pouch is pumpkin and carrots. Now, the one in the pouch is it's a B corporation. They were both organic. And if you do any research, you'll find that that particular product was produced by a Black female entrepreneur in Georgia. So it sounds, everything about that item sounds socially correct, except for what it's packaged in, versus the other one, which is in a corporate entity that we've all heard of. The truth of the matter is those products are available. They're in a warehouse. They scan all your products. They know what you buy, and they stock the shelves of what you buy at your store. Your store is like a watershed of people who go there, and this is what the people who in that store will buy. And you look at different stores in different places, they are different. They're configured different products on the shelf. It's all based on the people that are there. I have to tell you what your power is here. You need to be talking with the ones you want. You need to be asking for things. If the store manager hears enough people saying, I want something in a package, oh, they'll put it there. But if it doesn't move, it's going to go back to where it was. Our consumer power is something that we haven't really spent a lot of time experiencing and playing with. It's not how we protest it with things, but the power of how we spend our dollars is huge, and we need to explore and understand it. Last thing I will tell you here is that the whole plastic bag is based on a fee. Without a fee, people will talk about they don't want to use a plastic bag, and then they will tell you, I stopped using them when they started charging. And that is the truth. And that is the way it works. It's called a negative incentive. Once you pay for it, you say, do I really want this? And half of the bags disappear in the first month because people realize, I don't really need that bag. But that 5 cents or 10 cents makes you stop and think. No matter what we may think or how we may feel about it, in America, we are trained to move based on value and dollars. So when something can be put in that context, it makes us stop and ask that question, do I really want this? Do I want to spend my money that way? In any event, I'm going to sort of leave it at that. But I want you to go to the store and learn to see the trash. If you can see the trash, you will shop differently and you will ask better questions.
So helpful. Good advice to end on. So Elaine, if you can put up our last slide before we wrap up, I just have a couple of additional items. First, I want to just say that this has been such a wonderful discussion, and we know it's just a piece of a larger conversation. We hope to keep connected with each of you. I would like to say a big, big thank you to the others behind the scenes that have done a lot of work to make this happen today. We hope you'll all join us again on February 17th for a discussion around food waste reduction and recovery. We'll send out additional details about the event, and it'll be up on the Eventbrite very soon, so check that out. And in the meantime, if you have any questions or feedback, we really invite you to email us. Lastly, we hope you'll consider connecting with both the Plastics Reduction Task Force and the Philadelphia Neighborhood Networks. Thank you again, and we hope you have a wonderful evening.